Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 2019, which kind of feels like the start of the school year, IAC meeting. We will begin with a roll call, and after the roll call, I think we'll go around one more time so that you can all introduce yourselves to one another, because we do have some new faces in the room today. Okay, so with that, it's time to do roll call.
So, Vice Chancellor, absent. Councilmember Estrada,
Here.
Councilmember Byers-Stewart, absent. Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Murray is absent. Councilmember Dave is absent. Councilmember Hunter is absent. Councilmember Lashley.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Yee.
Here.
Councilmember North.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Thurman.
Here.
And then from the classified council, we have Sarah Jacobson. Here. And for faculty senate, Ron Marston.
Here.
And SGA, I'm sorry, Valerie, what's your last name?
How are you? Here. Thank you.
And from NFA is Julie Newley.
Here.
We do have a
Okay, very good. So I'd also like to recognize our special guest today. We have Regent Carol Del Carlo. Thank you so much for being here. Yay. Yeah, and we have Vice Chancellor Nate McKinnon, who will also be doing an update today. And then we have Caleb, and I'm blanking on Caleb's last name.
Cage.
Cage, the relatively new Assistant Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development. Yay! Okay, and I hope did I get everyone? I think, I would like to introduce Dana Ryan, who is a half-time special assistant to the president, and I'm so glad she's here. If you may or may not recall, Kyle Dalpy had been the assistant to Dr. Sheehan. That position's been vacant for about 3 years. Now I have a wonderful half-time special assistant in Dr. Dana Ryan, so really excited that she's here. So, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, so with that, if we could go around very quickly, and I think it would be good if you let us know who you represent, I guess. So your other line of work, in addition to assisting TMCC with the Institutional Advisory Council. And let's start with our student, Valeria.
Hi, nice to meet you all. I am Valeria Saborillo. I'm an international student from Costa Rica, and I am the Vice President of the Student Government Association. I'm here in representation of Alexander Patrick, who is our president. And I would like to say that I represent not only the international students, but also, all of the students here at TMCC. I love to be here. I love to engage with others, and that's the main reason that I decided to apply for SGA, because I want to leave a mark and help student life here as much as I can. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Jacobson. I'm proxying for our Classified Council President, Julia Bledsoe, and I work with Academic Support Center, so I'm part-time faculty main support.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ron Marston. I'm filling in for Ann Flesher, the Faculty Senate Chair. The Senate Chair couldn't be here today because she has a meeting with the Chancellor. The Chair-elect couldn't be here, and the past Chair couldn't be here, so I was fourth on the list. I'm a former Senate Chair and also currently the Chair of the Visual and Performing Arts Department here.
John Madole. Before I retired, I represented the construction industry, and I'm a construction industry representative here.
Good morning, John Thurman with Nevada Works. Nevada Works is the local workforce development board. We oversee very specifically the Title IB funding that comes out of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act.
Joe Nannini, I'm the Director of Clinical Experience and Assessment with the College of Education at the University of Nevada, Reno, and happy to be here.
You got my background.
BJ North, Executive Vice President, Chief Banking Officer for Plumas Bank.
Karen Hilgerson, President, TMCC.
I'm John Albrecht. I'm the General Counsel to the college. I don't say much during the meeting because my only job here is to assure compliance with the open meeting law and help you with that. So I don't really talk.
Hi, I'm Julie Muley. I'm Program Coordinator for the Dental Assisting Program here at TMCC, and I represent Nevada Faculty Alliance and all the faculty.
Carol Del Carlo, I'm Regent and also the Chair of the Community College Committee. I don't have a role in this meeting either, and, no, I'm just kind of watching.
Oh, we're not going to believe
Talk
that,
about
Carol.
that.
Hi, everybody. Nate McKinnon, Vice Chancellor for Community Colleges, and very excited to be here as I go to all the IAC meetings. And Chair Del Carlo goes to almost all of the IAC meetings as well.
Even the ones that get canceled and they don't tell me.
That's right. And she does very much have an active role here, but very excited to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Steve Reed. I'm with Bender Warehouse Company. I'm a president and new owner of the company, replacing Chris Bender on this council. And I look forward to working with you all. Representing supply chain and logistics industry. Thank you.
Ms. Shauna Squaga, and I've been 30 years in the gaming industry until about 5 years ago. And I'm a native Nevadan, and it's very exciting, frankly, because Steve's father taught me in high school at Douglas High School. And then Caleb grew up in Sparks, my native Sparks. So I feel like it's kind of old home week here. It's great. It's great.
So Caleb Cage, I work for Nate McKinnon. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development and Community Colleges. I think I got that right. I've been on the job 3 weeks now and happy to be here and learn. Thank you.
I'm Mindy Lokshin, and I am currently treasurer of the TMCC Foundation Board.
Great, thank you. All right, well, thank you very much. So now let's open it up for public comment. Public comment will be taken during this agenda item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item until the matter is included on an agenda as an item on which action may be taken. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons making comments will be asked to begin by stating their name for the record and spell their last name. The council chair may elect to allow additional public comment on a specific agenda item when that agenda item is being considered. Do we have any public comment today? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. And we do need to approve again the November 9th minutes, and John will explain why.
There was a mistake in that the last agenda for the previous meeting did not get posted on the website in a timely fashion. It was 1 day late, so we couldn't take any action. That was the only action we took at the last meeting, so we will approve them again today. That's all there is. That's the only reason. It's a mistake.
So do I have a motion to approve of the November 9th, 2018 IAC minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. Item number 4, approval of minutes for May 10th. We did have a clerical error on item number 4. We apologize. We posted 2 sets of November 9th minutes, which now what that means is that we will wait to approve the May 10th minutes at our next IAC meeting. So with that, I will pull this item from the agenda today. So, and now, very exciting to move to this next item, and that is election of TMCC Institutional Advisory Council Chair. I'd like to officially open up the floor for nominations. Do I have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate BJ North.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. Okay, so any further discussion on how wonderful BJ North is?
Let's not go there.
So all those in favor of electing BJ North to be the TMCC IAC Chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Any abstention? The motion carries, and with that, I will pass the gavel over to Chair BJ. All right.
Well, thank you all, I think. I'm excited to be with this group, and I think this group has a very important mission, and I'm sure we're going to continue to do great work. And so I think on the agenda, it is, we're going to pass it back to our illustrious president and have her give us an update.
Okay, so the first update that I'd like to provide relates to recent changes in Washoe County School District leadership. And I don't really want to speak to that other than to say that I've already had some really great interactions and one official meeting with the new leadership team of Washoe County School District. So I think Acting Superintendent Kristen is going to do an amazing job. We also have been, I've been interacting with Deborah Beiersdorf, who I was hoping could be here today. But I think they're a really great team. I think there's a lot of positive energy, and I think we've already had a really great discussion around dual enrollment certification for public school teachers that both of our respective teams will begin to work on in earnest. And I know the deans are already discussing that from the perspective of TMCC. So I guess I just wanted to assure you that even though they've had a significant and sudden leadership change, that is not stopping the work between TMCC and Washoe County School District. Secondly, I have a very positive enrollment report. At this point in time, unless it changed from a couple of days ago, which Elena's in the audience, but we were looking at about a 5% headcount increase for a total of a 1% change from the last snapshot year up. So that's really great, meaning we're about 5% higher than last year, and we're 1% higher from the last snapshot year at this point in time. We still have a couple of weeks to go before the start of school, but that is really great news. So we have a student enrollment management plan that was developed in a shared governance format. It's very detailed. We've been doing that plan one step at a time because I think in times when the economy is really good, you have to attack enrollment with a scalpel. Pockets of enrollment are what you go for. And that's what we've been doing, and I think it's really been paying off. One of the things that's exciting is that enrollments even in the liberal arts is better. It's gaining, which is good, because that took a significant hit last year. So we're thankful to all the work that's happening in instruction, all the work that's happening in student services, and the work of the Student Enrollment Management Plan Committee. This is good news. And again, I should probably knock on wood. That's what my mother would have told me to do at this moment, just so that I don't jinx it. But it's really a good scenario. The co-requisite policy was passed by the Board of Regents at the last meeting. We are excited about implementing what will be a very significant change to the way we offer math and English. I think we're also relieved that there was a section added in the co-requisite policy that permits community colleges to go to the Board of Regents and request a pilot. And we will be going forward to the Board of Regents as soon as we can, probably October or December, requesting a pilot to help a pretty large group of learners, about 1,000, who really aren't ready for intermediate algebra. They need to brush up on arithmetic first, especially when it comes to fractions and just the symbols of intermediate algebra. So I think it'll, Marie lip synced something to me. Blurt it out, Marie.
2 pilots, one for the 120 pathway and one for the 126.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like instruction is developing 2 pilots, one for the 120 pathway, which is college statistics, and one for the 126 pathway, which is pre-calc. So, all right, thank you. August 15th, the field is opening. Vamos Verdes, go green. We have about 60 soccer players, men and women, about 20, I think there's like 29 on each team who really they all want to be starters now, and they started practicing at Moana Field this week while the final touches of our field are being completed. It is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You have all been invited to the August 15th opening, and so just a little reminder, it'll be very brief speeches. We don't want to bore you with speeches, but we do have a nice lunch. So it should be a lot of fun. Where the RSVPs are coming in pretty good, so we anticipate between 300 and 400 people there, and part of that is including our faculty who come back that day. So the Sports and Fitness Center is on track for a December completion date and still on budget. Yay. Health and fitness go hand in hand with good academics. So this is all part of that stance that we're not just training people, we are educating people, and we're also helping our residents figure out how to live happy, prosperous, and healthy lives. So it's all part of creating that as a theme for TMCC and having a college campus that rises to that level. So that's very exciting. The EATS project, I'm moving along, has been renamed East View. And in a minute, I think you'll understand why. So if you hear us talk about East View, it's the same project as EATS, except it's done a couple of really important revisions. Thanks to Van Wart and Brigatti, who are amazing architects, we have a beautiful preliminary design that should be ready for your viewing by our next IAC meeting. They'd like to give the faculty and other stakeholders an opportunity to respond to the preliminary designs, hopefully during the month of August. Meanwhile, they're preparing some really great, hi Marissa, a great package for us to share with potential donors. The facility has 3 primary components: an expansion and upgrade for culinary and hospitality and tourism, that's one component, the TMCC Theater, and then a space called Action Link, and this is the one that's been undergoing revision during the last year, especially because we've been talking to some corporate partners, including Apple, blockchains, and there are others that we're talking to that I can't announce at this point. But in Action Link, there'll be a very large flex space, a robotics maker space, 2 digital maker spaces designed to encourage entrepreneurship, mobile app development, including the advanced graphic design that comes along with mobile app development, and coding in general as pertaining to blockchain technology and cybersecurity. Now, these aren't a bunch of classrooms to hold classes for these. These are spaces designed for brainstorming and actual development so that students get practices. It's really a maker spaces, creative maker spaces. Does that, and again, you'll hear more about that as we move on. So we saw the designs earlier this week. My jaw dropped. They're absolutely beautiful, and I cannot wait to show them to you all. So stay tuned. I think that the conditions are set for TMCC we're an excellent college, but I think this is going to take us to another plateau. This past week, we also started our workshops with faculty and management leaders. I think they've been going well. I think we're going into this school year with a very, very positive can-do attitude, and I am so excited. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Any questions for President Hickson regarding her report? Well, I think it's very exciting, and the college brings so much to our community, and looking forward for what we're going to need in the future with workforce and change and how we do business. I think the college is going to be a leader not only in Nevada but in the country, so I'm very excited to see what goes on, and I think it's great that you're partnering with some of the brand new large companies that have moving here to bring their expertise, so thank you for that hard work. Next on the agenda is updates from the Vice Chancellor of Community Colleges. Update, Nate?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wait, I just want everyone to congratulate him, and if he slurs his speech, he's had no sleep because he's a brand new father of a beautiful baby girl.
Thank you very much.
Time,
Yeah.
Dad.
Yes, thank you. And she's a native Nevadan. And I'm not,
And she's going to come to TMCC.
That's right. So good morning, everyone, and thank you. Yes, I am quite tired. Although I'm usually good at this point in the day, it's about 1 or 2 p.m. that I fall asleep. So delighted to be here with you at your IAC meeting for my favorite Institutional Advisory Council in Washoe County. And got a lot of great updates. Say it to you guys every time. So a couple updates from where I sit. First of all, President Hilgersom already introduced him, but I'd like to welcome Caleb Cage as our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development and Community Colleges. Caleb has been on the job just a few weeks now. Of course, his first 2 weeks I wasn't around. My daughter was born on his first day, which we had prepared for. We had talked ahead of time and said it could happen, and it did. So he has been doing a great job making the rounds, first in Northern Nevada and soon in Southern Nevada as well, to get to know workforce partners, both at our colleges as well as within our communities, to help figure out and further develop the great work our community colleges do as a system to meet the workforce needs of our state. And so we're really excited to have him on board for that. Next, I want to mention that the Institutional Advisory Councils, and Madam Chair, you are now a ex officio member of the Community College Committee. So that's one of the perks of being chair is you are now an ex officio member of the Board of Regents Community College Committee. Maybe they didn't explain that to you, but that's there you go. I've told you. So
really
it's
excited about that.
No, I am really excited
We're
about
excited
that.
too. And one of the past things that's happened is in the past the Institutional Advisory Council chairs have given updates at the Community College Committee meetings, but then also at the Board of Regents meetings. We did that for the last couple of years, and we used to do quarterly reports from institutional presidents at the full board meetings. Those went away, and we were doing these IAC reports. Under our new structure of leadership under Chairman Geddes and Vice Chair Dubrava of the Board of Regents, the IAC chairs will report out solely at the Community College Committee, and that will make one less meeting you have to go to. And then we're asking presidents to provide once a year, so two per quarterly meeting, provide an update in depth of how things are going at their individual institution. So we've made some reporting structural changes there that I wanted you to be aware of. But keep in mind, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, your IACs are committees. You're a committee of the Board of Regents. And so those of you who are council members were actually formally approved at some point. You may not even know that. It often happens behind the scenes a little, but by the chair of the board, and that's where the authority for creating the IACs lies. And so it's important that the board hears from the IACs, and that's why we're very excited that Regent Del Carlo, as chair of the Community College Committee, comes to our IAC meetings to also hear from you directly at your meetings. The Nevada Promise Scholarship continues to go well. We are, the legislature passed at the very end of session a new bill that changes the structure of the Nevada Promise Scholarship. And now we will be, the Board of Regents will be considering regulations on the Nevada Promise Scholarship at its upcoming meeting at the beginning of September. And I'll talk about those in a second. But some of the big changes are that we've moved the deadlines that were in this promise legislation out of the legislation, and we're going to put those into being controlled by the chancellor, and that's going to allow some flexibility. The way it was written before, of some of the deadlines were very close together and were very hard to implement, but you couldn't change them because that's how they were written out in statute. And so we've actually made changes to say the board should really put regs and things like that in there. And we've changed some things like the legislature changed the hours of community service from 20 per year to 8 per year. They've made some slight changes to when you meet with a mentor, and so on and so forth. So all positive changes, all changes that came from input from the folks implementing the Nevada Promise Scholarship at each of our 4 community colleges. But we're very excited to welcome back the first year students who are now entering year 2 for Nevada Promise Scholarships across the system. And we're also excited to welcome in the new cohort, that's the high school graduating class of 2019 that enters just in 9 days or so, right, to our community colleges under the Promise Scholarship Program. Our upcoming Community College Committee meeting, you haven't missed one. We canceled the July one and created a new special meeting of the Community College Committee. Chair Del Carlo asked that we do this so that we could accomplish 2 main objectives at that upcoming meeting. And that meeting, by the way, if anyone wants to attend, will be on the Friday morning of the Board of Regents quarterly meeting. So that's Friday, September 6th at Western Nevada College at 8 a.m. In Carson City. and then at 9, the board reconvenes in full session. At that committee meeting, we are going to accomplish, we hope, 2 things. The first is the passing of the Nevada Promise regulations that we've put before the board for their consideration. So the Community College Committee will consider those and hopefully pass those along, and that's what we will then use for how we implement that program for this coming academic year. And the second agenda item is Chair Del Carlo has asked that we spend some time talking about the impact of the formula, the funding formula for our system on community colleges. We have a single funding formula. It is entirely performance-based, outcomes-driven. 100% of it is decided by, or not, well, close to 100% of it is decided by weighted student credit hours. Okay, so it's credit hours completed by students based on weights. So, you know, if an English class is a weight of 1, you know, a lab class would be more, a CTE class would be a weight of 4, and so on. So we have this formula, and that's how all of the money from the state of Nevada is divvied up amongst all of the institutions in the Nevada system of higher education, including UNR, UNLV, Nevada State, and our community colleges. And so we are going to have a conversation about how does that impact the unique aspects of community colleges, particularly colleges that are driven by enrollment in a very different way than four-year institutions. Because as President Hilgerson mentioned earlier, community colleges during, when the economy is doing well, our enrollments tend to go down. And when the unemployment goes up, so do enrollments at community colleges all across the United States. It's understandable. People are looking to retool and reskill so they can remarket themselves in a more competitive job market. So those are the 2 things on the agenda at the Community College Committee. Just quick update on the MGM College Opportunity Program. I've mentioned this before. Our first cohort starts this fall. I think we're looking at over 500 across the system that MGM will pay for entirely. This was modeled after the Starbucks Arizona State University program. And I think we have about 30 or 40 at TMCC. I think that's the number. That's the number applied.
We have 4.
4? Okay. Well, we got some work to do.
3 of them are out of state.
3 of them are out of state. Okay. So we're large numbers of these the students in these programs. Since more than half of the workforce for MGM is located in Las Vegas, most of the students chose CSN or UNLV based on name recognition. And so we do hope to expand this program greatly over the coming years as it's MGM paying for the students to be educated in our system. The last thing I want to mention, Madam Chair, is a request of you, and you have something on your agenda today that already speaks to this, but something that I would ask, and I'm asking all of our institutional advisory councils, is there is language in our handbook that is the charge language for the institutional advisory councils. It's in the Board of Regents handbook, what we call the code, and it is in there and sets out what your responsibilities are. It's very broad. In fact, one might argue it could be too broad. It's so broad. It covers a lot of ground. And so what I'm asking each institutional advisory council to do is review this language at an upcoming meeting in depth. And I think what you have on the agenda today is a great precursor to this of talking about the roles of IACs. And then second part of that I would ask would be that you consider looking at our language and seeing if there's any changes that you would, as a council, feel would help you be more effective, help you be more clear, and so on and so forth, in terms of how you're efficiently operating and advising Truckee Meadows Community College. So I'm asking if you could please take a look at that, and we'll ask that it be shared in the future for a future agenda meeting, and then any feedback be sent to me through the chair, and then I'm asking each of our 4 institutional advisory councils to do that, and we'll collate that and come back in the spring, I think, and see if there's an appetite for changing anything in the code around the charges to institutional advisory councils, or if everyone's comfortable with how they're currently drafted. And so that's sort of my ask for a future meeting. And sorry for the lengthy report, but really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank Regent Del Carlo for bringing the impact of funding to the committee on community colleges. I think that is a very important topic. It's a concern that I've had, and I want to thank you so much for bringing that forward and really hearing some of the concerns that have been brought up in this council prior to. So thank you so much. And Nate, thank you for giving a great report, but also thank you for the opportunity for us to review this. There has been discussion about, what is the role of our council and what are we supposed to be doing, and nobody likes to attend meetings and not get anything done or have a purpose. I'm one of those. So having this opportunity to revisit this and bring some suggestions, if any, to you and the Ninchi, I greatly appreciate that, and I think the council will as well. So thank you very much. And thank you for your report. Any questions for our Vice President, Vice Chancellor?
Actually, just a quick question, and I don't know if it's you or Karen, but do you know what percentage of your first class consists of Nevada Promise scholars?
Ooh, I bet Elena can get that for us.
We can come back to that too. I just like to get a sense of how many.
I can tell you this, that before Nevada Promise, we were recruiting between 900 and 1,000 students directly from the high schools. That was our chunk from Washoe County School District. I think Nevada Promise probably increased that number by at least a few hundred, but that's what I don't have the latest update on that. So.
And I would just point out, while Elena looks that up, Nate McKinnon for the record, I would point out that the Promise Scholarship, in some respects, one of the challenges we've had with it is it's hard to quantify the full impact of the scholarship. So remember, this is what we call a last dollar program. What that means is after all other sources of financial aid, such as the federal Pell Grant, the Silver State Opportunity Grant, or if Millennium, a student has that, after those are applied for a student, if there's a remaining eligible cost, that is covered. And so what you have therefore, and one of the things we knew would happen, is a lot of students who always assumed college was unattainable because of its cost, who actually would qualify for a full Pell Grant, are now getting that, and therefore they don't get any money from Promise, but it may be because of Promise that they went through the process of getting to college under the notion of their costs would be, that their registration fees would be covered. So it's interesting that's a harder thing for us to quantify because those students technically don't get $1 from Nevada Promise. But we know that part of it is a marketing tool about getting students to start thinking about college sooner in high school, at the beginning of their senior year.
And completing the FAFSA.
Yes.
No, and I also like all the different things they have to complete because it's kind of a commitment and consistency.
Exactly.
Right.
I wonder what your outcomes are going to be with that cohort.
We're
Because
excited to see.
because it's, I think they're more committed for having to go through that process. So I'm curious.
I think the harder message to relay is that even though it's a last dollar in scholarship, it's not need-based. So if I fill out the FAFSA, and let's say I have a 2.5 GPA, so I didn't get a millennial scholarship, and I didn't get other scholarships, and my family makes $200,000 a year. Mom and dad both work, they make $200,000 a year. So I don't qualify for any Pell, right? Nevada Promise would cover my tuition. So it really is a middle-class scholarship, which is, even though you still have to do the FAFSA and you have to explore your other options financially, it's a middle-class scholarship, which means people are taking out less in loan debt, which to me is fantastic. So, yeah.
I have a number if you want to hear.
Okay.
Yes.
Elena Bubnova for the record. So we're actually looking at a total of 470 Nevada Promise scholars this year, which is a 24% increase over last year. And as Nate pointed out and Dr. Hilgerson pointed out, one of the other sort of side effects of the Nevada Promise Scholarship is that it gave us such an exposure, and students who otherwise might have not considered TMCC as an option or as a starting point in their higher education career, they're actually now coming. And a lot of our students students who originally came as Nevada Promise Scholars, meaning that that's how they were recruited. These are the steps that they completed, but even though they did not get the actual dollars, that's the overall population that we're looking at. And without Nevada Promise Scholarship, those students simply wouldn't have been here, as well as their friends probably, you know.
That's great. Any other questions? Thank you, Elena. Okay, we will move on to Faculty Senate. Ron Marston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Ron Marston filling in for Ann Flesher. I have just a brief summary of the work that the Senate has done in the last year, just to give you all a sense of what the Faculty Senate does here. Chair Ann Flesher, sorry she can't be here. She's, as I said, attending a meeting with the Chancellor and the other Senate chairs this morning. So just a few highlights that the Senate has worked on and successfully moved forward in the last academic year. I think I've got 7 bullet points here. We established a new standing committee for the administrative faculty so that the Senate can better represent this large constituency of non-teaching professionals at TMCC, and I think that's around 160 or so people here. Through the work of our web college, we updated and improved our academic online, our standards for online instruction. Through our part-time faculty committee, we passed a resolution and have implemented a policy that extends grant and aid benefits for dependents of our part-time faculty. Grant and aid is essentially where people can take classes here at TMCC for a reduced rate. Through our salary, budget, and benefits committee, we revised the summer pay policy so that classes taught after July 1st are compensated for at the rate that is reflected by the new salary. Our professional standards committee, along with the salary, budget, and benefits committee, worked collaboratively to make positive revisions to the faculty annual evaluation process, and that is an ongoing process. During the last legislative session, the 80th legislative session, our past chair, Mike Holmes, and our current chair, Ann Flesher, made public comment at the Ways and Means Committee in support of the NSHE supplemental budget, which included, among other things, funding for summer classes, funding to address salary compression, and equity and advancement to improve faculty recruitment and retention. Sadly, we didn't get that funding. And then Senate leadership collaboratively worked with the President's leadership team to establish a TMCC document of shared governance principles. This living document continues to be added to by representatives of the campus constituencies, and we've heard from other Senate chairs at other NSHE institutions that they are interested in what we are doing in creating a similar document and process. So TMCC is leading the way in establishing principles of shared governance for NSHE institutions. And then lastly, in the upcoming year, the Faculty Senate will work with our administrative leadership on establishing TMCC budget priorities, and with NSHE and the math and English departments as we create an implementation plan, and these are the pilot plans that you heard about earlier, for our new co-requisite policy established by the board in June to streamline gateway classes for students who come to TMCC not quite ready for college-level math and English. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Moving on, we'll go to classified council report. Sarah?
Hi, again, sitting in for Julia Bledsoe, our classified council president. We had a successful classified symposium last month. It was focused around wellness, and we had morning walks. We had workshops focused around wellness and exercise and healthy eating, so that was a success. And then our goals for this academic year is to meet the president's expectations about bringing the college community together. So we're focused on increasing attendance and really focused on helping our custodial and facilities areas to join our meetings. So we're changing our meeting times and increasing attendance.
Right. Any questions for Sarah? Thank you. Moving on to student government, Gloria?
Again, in representation of Alexander Patry, our president, and I'm the vice president, we, as the SGA, have met to set our goals for this new academic year. We have been very objective about them. We've broken them down into 5 categories, actually. One of the major challenges that we want to attack is communication and student life here at TMCC. We know that our students here mostly work or they're not full-time students here, so we want to make sure that the events that we hold as SGA are during schedules and during times that we can, address the most quantity of students as possible. We want to have more involvement with our marketing department to increase social media coverage regarding our events. Sometimes attendance is kind of low, so we want to keep increasing it. Then moving on to student life and engagement, we want to encourage academic department participation in student life. And we want to increase our student participation in events as well. For academics, we are in the process of researching how to create more bachelor's degree here at TMCC, but also to raise awareness that we have bachelor's degrees here. I work for academic advising as well, and it's very interesting how a lot of students don't know, and they just, when they realize, they're like, wow, I can get my bachelor's at TMCC for a lower cost, which is really good. So we want to raise more awareness on that. And of course, sustainability is very important for us. We have a lot of reusable water bottles as part of our swag that we want to keep increasing and giving out to students. So yeah, we are very excited. We want to be as objective and as attainable to our goals as possible. We're focusing on SMART goals, and we want to also handle our budget and the resources that we have the most frugal and responsible way as possible. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Great work. I just love to hear from students.
Thank you.
It's like why we're all here is because of our students, and they're our future, and you're doing great work. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions for Valeria?
May I make a comment?
You certainly can.
First of all, I'm so excited to work with this incoming SGA leadership team. Incredible. And what Valera didn't tell you is she's one of 3 Costa Rican students who received quite a lot of funding for a 2-year period, pretty much all expense paid, I would, from the Cruces Foundation, which is kind of an international economic, they get some of their money from businesses in Costa Rica, and they shifted their resources. At one point in time, they were giving their funding of about $40,000 per student for a 2-year period of study to graduate students, and they didn't feel that they were seeing enough positive outcomes, so they have shifted to community colleges, and we have developed a relationship with Cruces. So we did very well, and you just enhance our campus. It's been lovely to get to know you the last year, and I'm so excited that you're in SGA. So thank you.
Yeah, I would, adding to that comment, yes, Cruza is a scholarship dedicated for community college students that are focusing more on technical degrees. Back in Costa Rica, that's what most companies are looking for. So it's been a great enhancing experience for Costa Ricans as well to come back home with an American degree. And, not to compare, but my other fellow scholarship winning classmates, they talk about their colleges and they're not as great at TMCC. Yes. Yay. When I tell them like all of the resources that we have here, I have a hearing loss disability. Literally the first day I walked into here, I walked out with a hearing, like with my DRC documents ready to go to each one of my professors, meet with them. It's been such a great experience. Like it's way beyond expectations. So I love TMCC, and I'm so glad I picked TMCC as my college. And hopefully more Costa Ricans coming into our college.
Be sure you share those comments.
On
thank
social
media and send them home.
We have, Actually, our director, Natalie Brown for International Student Services, she's in Costa Rica right now at a recruitment fair. And our other Costa Rican student, Jefferson Phillips, he was recruiting as well in the fair, and we heard some very positive comments.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here, and thank you. You do bring a lot to the campus and to our students, so it's great to have you, and thank you for your work. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Hilgersum for a presentation and a discussion on this goes to what Nate was talking about. What is the role of TMCC, IAC? What are we? How do we move TMCC forward?
So you may or may not recall that we actually had this on our agenda at the last IAC meeting, but we really ran short of time. So I thought we would revisit this and really take a little more time than we had at the last meeting. So I'll start, and is it okay if I sit for this, or is that all right? Or I could go to the podium? Okay, good. So I'd like to just talk about the history as I understand it. But the caveat here is I was not here when this history unfolded. So for those of you who were here and want to add to it, feel free to chime in. But here's my understanding based on what I've learned. And Cliff Macklin, as he was getting ready to chair a meeting, really researched this with me, and it was his desire to have this conversation. And I thought it was just a wonderful idea. And now it's nice to know that all the IACs will have this conversation, thanks to, I think, Nate and Regent Del Carlo. I think that's terrific. But back in 2013, there was an introduction of Senate Bill 391, which basically would have split the system. It would have separated community colleges out of NSHE. And as you can imagine, at that time, I think that created quite a bit of concern and probably a little conflict, but I wasn't there. And that led to, instead of a passage of that bill, the bill did not pass, but what came out of it was a 2014 legislatively requested interim study of the situation. And out of that study, a letter was written, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And I believe the chair of that was Senator Joyce Woodhouse. But a letter was written saying, okay, the bill doesn't need to pass, but here's some things that we would like NSHE to consider doing so that some of the concerns of the bill sponsors are mitigated, or better yet, they fall away. And so at that point in time, NSHE developed quite a lot of code stemming from the recommendations. And here were the recommendations that were outlined in a letter connected to the interim study to the NSHE Board of Regents. And so here were some of the recommendations. That develop a system within a system. Have some clarity around the differences in mission between community colleges and universities and the Desert Research Institute. It asked for a creation of a Vice Chancellor of community colleges, which we now have. It also said, we think you need some standing committees for community colleges, which, guess what? That's you, right? And also the Community College Committee that is part of the Board of Regents. Support for academic program alignment. The letter requested expansion of AP courses, which is kind of out of our control, by the way, but that was in the letter. Dual credit courses, including apprenticeships and certificates. Expansion of community college high schools. Request NSHE to review various advisory boards and committees that provide input on coursework, curriculum, and program development. And then third, workforce development grants. Workforce Development Rapid Response Fund, which was the WIN funding, that $2 million will be allocated for WIN funding, which is a lot less than what had been since the beginning of WIN funding. But we are planning on submitting a request for a nice chunk of that change. So STEM Workforce Challenge Grant, $3.5 million at that time in the letter. And then need-based financial aid, creation of state-supported need-based financial aid program, which is now known as the Silver State Opportunity Grant. I think that the NSHE Board of Regents, I think they've done a wonderful job actually responding to that letter. And now let's look at some of the code that is now part of the NSHE code as a result of this interim committee study. So here's the charge as it exists today. The purpose of the local advisory councils is to ensure the linkage of the college to the community it serves and to anticipate future regional educational trends. The council will meet at least quarterly to advise the college president, the vice chancellor for community colleges, the chancellor, and the Board of Regents Standing Committee on Community Colleges on questions regarding operation of the college. The council shall function and exercise the powers set forth by the Nevada Board of Regents. And then here's the purpose, and we paraphrase this just a bit. So our community colleges are the workforce development engines of our nation. I agree to that. And state and region, and the Nevada Board of Regents recognizes the need and value of having a direct line of communication between the communities served by each college, the college administration, and the Board of Regents Standing Committee on Community Colleges. Each Institutional Advisory Council, comprised of representatives from the community's public and private sectors, is charged with providing counsel and feedback to the college president, the vice chancellor for community colleges, and the chancellor on issues brought before the council related to the growth and sustainability of industries in our communities, and methods by which the college may maximize the potential to effectively and efficiently deliver curriculum that most appropriately meets the needs of a diverse population served. Also, in consultation with the college president, certain issues and opportunities will be presented to the standing committees on community colleges for consideration and action by the committee and the Board of Regents. First of all, any questions, comments, things that you observe about this language that may have, that you weren't aware of or that you were aware of, or anything at all? Okay, that's pretty. So now, and if we go back to the other slide, this last line is really important to me. And I think it's based on our conversations, Regent Del Carlo, I think this is really important to you too. And that is that this group really connects with the community college committee that Regent Del Carlo is chairing, and I'm so thankful that you'll be chairing it as we move forward. And the idea, I believe, is that this is where dialogue occurs between the IAC and the Board of Regents. And this is also where action can be taken in both directions, meaning I think you as a committee can request action of the NSHE Board of Regents. And the Board of Regents, I think, can request action from you, right? Even though this really talks about you providing, I think what's been happening at the college committee, community college committee, since I've been here, and I'm starting my 4th year, there have been very few action items, other than approving the minutes. And I know that Regent Del Carlo would like to change that and bring more significance and meaning to that committee as well. So that's the piece that I hope we can kind of reflect on as we answer and respond to Vice Chancellor McKinnon's question. And are we doing this? Do we need to do this more? Do we want to change the language around it? I would encourage us to strengthen it and make it even more clear. But I think it's really, a very well done idea if we can just bring that idea to maturity, because all of this stuff is relatively new in the in the world of higher education, right? Okay, so with that, we'll go to the next slide. Community members nominated by the college president and appointed by the chair of the Board of Regents who are interested in advancing their college and the education, training, and employment of local community. And you can see the business sector alignment we have. We also, one of my first meetings, Michonne said, well, gee, I think we need more help from the University of Nevada, Reno. I think that was a great suggestion. And so now we have Joe Nannini and Sesh Kamiri, who's sorry he couldn't be here today. He's on vacation with his 2 sons. But I think that's just really 2 great connections with the University of Nevada, Reno. And then, of course, Deborah Beiersdorf from K-12, to have really the chief academic officer on this committee has been so helpful. So I think we have a really nice mix on our IAC of industry and educational representatives. And so I would also encourage us to think about that. How do we leverage the strengths of the individuals who have committed to serving on this IAC?
So do you think this still reflects the new industry coming into the area?
Yes.
In some ways, I think it does, but in others, I'm wondering if it's, if it's missing a certain segment of like, IoT, coding, that kind of thing.
I think that would be the next member.
Yep.
Yeah. So another good recommendation, Michelle. Yeah, but no, I think.
Just trying to add to the conversation.
Right, that's
'cause,
right.
Maybe somebody else will think of somebody.
Yeah.
but
Yep.
Anyway. When I think of,
Right.
the news that you delivered
Yeah.
regarding EATS and the new companies coming into that, I think we really need
Yeah.
to have somebody from
Right.
that at the table.
Yeah, I agree. Thinking of some ideas now that she's mentioned that.
Because it goes back to your purpose, which you could probably put in 2 lines, which is, you're the workforce engine of the community,
Right.
and we're here to connect you.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
Thank you. Anything else that you'd like to add? So considering the request from our Vice Chancellor, I wonder if Nate should we set a timeline for if you have any feedback that you would like to send a note related to this question? Or do you want to just address it at our next IAC meeting if you have any specific suggestions?
So thanks, Madam President. And I think that I think one thing I would ask is that for the next meeting, we actually include the language from the procedures and guidelines, which is, you've summarized very well, but has, is boring legalese read language. But I think having that and you working through that and saying if you were to add to that, edit it, delete from it, what would you do? And actually maybe doing a bit of a working session at the next IAC meeting. And people can come having read it in advance with some ideas, that would be effective.
To you?
My timeline is hoping to get the feedback by the end of the calendar year from all 4 IACs.
I think there's been some great material presented, and we have a request from NINCHE to review the language. And I think it would be good to have it on the agenda and also, give us time. I would like to have these slides sent out. So that we can really take a look and digest it and really give it some quality thought, because this is important, and then have it on the agenda for the next time, and maybe just have a working session. I think the council needs to be, really, it needs to be kind of a mirror of the community that you serve, and we need to take a look at that because our community is changing. And so we need to really include the driving forces in our economy today that weren't here, 5 years ago. And they have a huge impact on the success of the community college and on our NINCHE system. And they're going to continue to put higher demands on the community college, more so in many ways than UNR, and not saying anything different about UNR, but workforce changes. And community colleges are the workforce driver of education, as well as getting your bachelor's degree. So I think that if it is all right with the rest of the committee members, I would like to have this on the agenda for a very much more in-depth, and that we spend some time thinking about what it is that we're charged with. And I love the fact that it talks about action. This committee has such a big voice to identify major issues that impact Truckee Meadows Community College. And this is a voice, and if we don't take this opportunity to share with our leadership, then shame on us, because it's our job to share with leadership what our concerns are, what our driving mission is, and what the community needs. And so that's our voice. And I think we need to make sure that our voice is succinct, accurate, factual, and timely. And I think Regent Del Carlo can comment on that, but I think that that is something that she would like to hear from, as she's the one who has also led this charge. So if that's all right with the committee, are we okay to move forward in that direction? So we'll send out, in our next committee agenda, but also notification, that this is really going to be a working session. I would not like to wait to the end of the year to respond. I would like to get us moving, have a definite focus, and move forward. Anyone opposed to that?
I'm not opposed, but I have a question.
You can go ahead.
Yes.
Ask
Thank you,
all
Madam Chair.
that you want,
I think
President.
I think the question is so I'm trying to visualize how this will look, because, it's, if this group makes edits and the other 3 community colleges make edits, how does all of that, what if we diverge? Because ultimately it's one policy. And I'm sitting here wondering if that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is that we work on broad recommendations and then run the edits through the community college committee where all, I don't know. I was just trying to think logistically how this will look. And what I wouldn't want to do is we make all these detail edits and it's impossible to incorporate our edits with edits from CSN, GBC, and WNC. So.
Thank you. So I guess I'm probably more interested in broad recommendations.
Okay.
But I do think in order to do it effectively, you need to read the 3 or 4 pages of language that
Okay.
actually has, these are all the little things. Some of it is technical things that you won't even need to worry about, like how we appoint members, right?
Right.
We're probably not going to be changing that process here. So it's the charge, the purpose, and the outcome, the outputs, if you will. And I am looking for broad recommendations from each IAC, not necessarily red line changes.
Okay.
I'm looking of, we'd really like some language on this topic, or we think this is too broad and should be more specific in this way, et cetera. And then I will take all of the feedback from all 4 IACs and put together sort of a report on, here's what you all said, and here's how we're going to look at that moving forward. We'll probably bring it to the Community College Committee for a discussion. It is in procedures and guidelines, which means it does not necessarily require a formal vote of the board, but I think we would want the input of the Community College Committee for sure before finalizing anything on it.
Good, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you, President Hilgersom, and for leading that discussion, and we will put this on the agenda for next meeting and get a little more in-depth, and I think spend some quality time, because I think this is timely, because I think I've had a discussion with several members, and these questions have come up. Really, what are we doing? Why are we here? And I think that's important. So thank you all. The next item on the agenda is community issues, needs, and collective vision for TMCC. I'm supposed to put something on the screen.
I think Lisa's.
There we are, okay. Wow, there's a lot up there. Community issues, needs, collective vision for TMCC. Do we have any comments on this issue? Do we want to have, we should have some discussion. I mean, what does this look like to you? What are your ideas and thoughts on this particular presentation? Yes, John?
Yeah, for the record, John Thurman. So yeah, I don't know if my comments are appropriate in this section or the previous section, but some things that I keep running across are the need for, I call it virtual learning or distance learning or e-learning in the system. As Nevada Works, we represent the 13 counties of Northern Nevada, and I understand that there are 2 other community colleges that are involved in that. But we have some rural communities that are, for lack of a better definition, underserved when it comes to post-secondary education, and I think that activities and programs in that arena would assist in that. I think in everything that I'm seeing, as I investigate a little bit more into the artificial intelligence and how it's impacting the workforce, what parts of the labor workforce is that going to hit most, I think there's some opportunities there for us as a community colleges and so on and so forth. And then finally, and I don't know that this doesn't exist, but just the shared resources among those 3 community colleges in northern Nevada. So rather than each community college developing certain technologies, going back to the first one, virtual technology, I think maybe they could pool some resources or share resources among those. So those are the 3 things that I kind of wanted to interject at this point for that section.
So I wonder if Vice President Marie Mergolo would like to come up and talk a little bit about Web College, some of the discussions we've had on campus about AI and how it affects programs. And then I can speak a little bit to shared resources, just as a tidbit of the foundation of what you're talking about. So, okay. Because these are all fantastic topics, and we are discussing them. So.
For the record, Dr. Marie Mergolo, Vice President of Academic Affairs. It's wonderful that you bring that up, because we started this conversation, I brought it up at Faculty Senate last year in September, about the fact that we need to integrate AI into all of our disciplines, at least the knowledge of how it will impact the careers in those areas. That we don't want it as, we're going to teach, accounting, and then we'll teach a class about AI. We need to weave it into the fabric of the accounting course and all the other courses across the board, because AI is going to affect everything we do and how we do it in the workforce in the very near and continuing into the distant future. So yes, faculty are beginning to think about that and make plans to integrate that kind of knowledge of the, how that impacts what those students will be doing in that career path. So it's very timely, and we've been looking at it this last year and making plans for that integration.
And Marie, can you talk a little bit about Web College? We actually have a robust online Web College, and we serve about 4,500 students a year in it. But I continue to be concerned that a lot of people don't know about it. But if you could explain a few of the programs that we offer that are completely online.
There are, I believe, 11 degrees that are fully online. And the, as the president said, it's very robust. We have a lot of students who take part of their classes face-to-face, part online, and it's all about access. I mean, that's why, we started the Web College, so that students who work and have competing obligations have the access so that they can continue and complete their degrees. We're looking to move more and more online. Actually, Brandy's been talking to the Ed Plus people at ASU to learn about their model, because their model has students who take their classes all online really work directly through the what we call the Web College area, and the students who take a class here and there actually work through the general college and department level. So there's ways that would help us to be able to expand our offerings because of the use of faculty and curriculum and the development of curriculum, and that would help us to move more degrees wholly online. So it is something that we're actively working on right now, is to expand that. But we have one of the, an incredibly robust online program, and an area that is dedicated just to focus on that.
So, and that, does that help, even though I'm wondering if BJ and I can talk about scheduling presentations next year to learn more about what's missing in our Web College or our planning on AI from you as advisory board members?
It all helps. I just kind of throw them out there as topics for discussion and areas where we see from our perspective that's where things are headed. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the attention to the AI was brought to us a year ago from Clifton. You know, and I sat and met with him for a whole morning looking at the impact on, different disciplines and different career paths. And then I brought that forward to the faculty, our faculty senate. So the input that we get from the IAC members is, so valuable in helping us forge our direction for the future.
Again, John Thurman for the record. As we go on with this discussion a little bit, as I put on my TMCC hat, does online learning, be it the Khan Academy or other resources out there that are totally free, how is that potentially impacting the potential to attract students and/or the economic impact that can have to the college?
So would you like to take this, or do you want me to take it, or both?
Well, I'll say my part, then I'm sure
Okay.
you'll have something to add to it.
that okay with you?
From what I have seen is that it really doesn't, to me, it doesn't take away. A lot of the students will take those classes, but they don't pay for them and test out through them. They take them to enhance their ability to do well in the classroom. And so to me, it's a wonderful complement to what we do. And I mean, personally, I know my son did that. He's studying physics down at UCSD, and he didn't feel prepared going into a class, so he did an MIT class on electromagnetism, and then he went in and did really well in his class. But he didn't pay for that or take the exams. And speaking to our students here, they tend to use it to enhance, it's almost like a tutoring session.
And I don't think the general public understands that.
So we call them MOOCs in higher ed, massive online, I forget what the double courses, but a MOOC. And a MOOC is usually developed by a company and I think what's happened nationally is the companies who've developed these have realized it's hard to make money from these. And then universities have developed them as well. And when I was in SUNY, we could compete for grants to develop MOOCs that then would be shared open source for the system. And they usually are courses to help refresh skills. And sometimes there's an automated assessment at the end, meaning you can take an automated quiz at the end to test your competency. And there are some national entities that are trying to provide sort of credit or certification for some of those experiences. So I think the problem from the perspective of a public community college is that all of these things are extremely expensive to develop, and it's very difficult to figure out how to get revenue from them unless students are signing up for credit.
We did look at the concept of, when I was Dean of Business, Greg Mosier and I looked at developing a MOOC, and just financially, economically, it just didn't pencil out.
I think what's more important for us is to identify some of the incredible open source experiences that are out there. And a lot of them are coming from places like MIT, for example. And these are fantastic things created, developed by teams of people, usually with a internationally known scholar or professor who's the star of these experiences. And they are just wonderful complements to classes. So I kind of like to think about it as the new library.
Yeah, it is.
It's not all grabbing a book from a shelf. It's finding a great YouTube video that was created by someone at MIT to expand your knowledge base and your thinking.
Yeah,
So-
the one that Max took, that's what he's teaching as a PhD student now, 'cause
Right.
it was so, he got such a great grounding.
Yeah.
by
As a
that.
related aside, we do engage at this college in a thing called Quality Matters. And Quality Matters was funded years ago by a couple of funders, like Lumina, I think, was one of the primary funders. And Quality Matters is a very detailed, high-level tool for assessing online courses. And if as we look at so let's say we have a psychology professor who says, I want to put my online course through the Quality Matters tool to see if I'm up to snuff, and that's what we do. And it's very detailed. What's happening with Quality Matters now is as we get more access to capacity, such as good broadband, and I can show compressed video files, every day without crashing the internet, right? As we get more powerful with our technologies, our hardware and our software, the expectation that students have in an online class keeps getting higher. And so we respond to that through this program called Quality Matters. And if a class is QM certified, that's a really cool deal, because that means that this is going to be a high quality course offering. It's structured not to evaluate the faculty member. It's saying that this is the classroom experience and the technology and the tools, all of those things. Did I capture it, Ron?
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
close. It's a rubric that follows best practices nationally about what a good online class should be. And as I mentioned in my report, the Senate really encourages, we've kind of updated and beefed up our standards for online instruction, and a big part of that is really strongly encouraging faculty to go through that Quality Matters certification process for their classes. So a lot of them are doing it now.
Just a couple quick points on that. We have quite a number of faculty here who now are at the level of they are evaluators nationally for other programs, classes, because of their level of expertise in Quality Matters, number one. And number two, I just wanted, what Ron mentioned about our online standards, I think it's a big deal, because there are a lot of institutions, or other sister institutions, who have asked me if they could share, if I could share ours with them, and it's like it's on the web. We're very proud of those. Faculty helped develop them, and Faculty Senate have endorsed them, and we actually we're very strict about applying those to our faculty and to the courses. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
For the record, BJ North. Is there ever going to be a time when all online courses would be required to have Quality Matters? I mean, are we moving in that direction? And I guess I'm going to say this from a business perspective. I get a little leery on when my team members are taking online classes, and not necessarily from here. And the cost is exorbitant. We have a college tuition, we pay for advanced education, and then I see some of the results just from visiting with them and asking what they've learned and having them put it into actual implementation, and it's quite disappointing sometimes. Other times it's great. So I think this is the first time I've heard about this, but
yes.
From my perspective, having online recognized as going through a program certified for the excellence and best practices, I think that's a huge marketing tool, number one. But from a business perspective, it would, if I knew that I could look this up for other colleges and other online programs, this would be a big criteria for me.
2 points to that is, it is our goal to get all of our online classes QM certified. But QM certification is the structure of the course to ensure that the online experience is as rich as a face-to-face experience. It is not a content evaluation. So you still require the department chairs and colleagues to go in and assess the level of quality of the content. So if you're going in and speaking to somebody and kind of testing their knowledge or ability on something, the course may be perfectly structured, but if the content isn't up to, and that's what, our web standards kind of takes that to the next level to ensure that and ensure the level of responsiveness. I mean, within 24 hours, a professor has to respond to any student query or comment on there. Those types of things. So I think we enhance what Quality Matters. What Quality Matters does is brilliant. And it does raise online education to a new level. But what we're doing, I think, is kind of filling the gaps that leaves. So the combination of the two is creating the best experience that can be for student learning. And that's what we care about, students learning.
That's very powerful.
And there is a cost for every
Oh, yes.
course. So we're, you know, getting as many done as much as the budget allows. So,
Yeah, there's budget, and there's
yeah.
also a
Right.
huge, you know, a lot of time for the faculty members as well to go through the whole educational process they have to. So we can't say, okay, everybody right now, you know,
Right,
is
but I
gonna
think
do
it's a
this.
good goal.
It is,
To
and
move
we
towards
hope
that.
to
I mean,
achieve
that,
it.
again, sets TMCC apart from the, you know, the rest of the field.
Just a quick comment on that. I completely agree with that. And I'm happy to take your question and your observation to the Web College Committee. You know, a lot of this kind of stuff works best when it's faculty driven, as we say around here, rather than a mandate coming from top down.
Right.
Faculty driven, and faculty, generally speaking, have the best interests of the students at heart always and want high academic rigor and everything else. So I will bring this to our Web College Committee for discussion.
And again, some of the students that, or my team members that have come to me are not coming to TMCC. And the first thing I say is, I want you to go online and see if this course is offered online at TMCC. And that's the first criteria, or at UNR. That's the first criteria for us, or when we're looking at our students, because they come from Northern Nevada and Northern California. And that's very important. So again, I think this is very exciting, and I really appreciate you hearing the comment and moving forward.
If I could share one quick
Sure, you
anecdote.
can.
I have a faculty member who is actually employed by a Southern Nevada higher educational institution, who I shall not name, that is teaching an Art 100 class online for them. We, of course, teach Art 100 Visual Foundations online here. The content of, we actually ended up sharing our TMCC content with that faculty member, because the content that she had access to from that institution, first of all, was not QM certified and ours is, and secondly, was nowhere near as complete or robust or rich as the content that we have. So we just gave that faculty member, that part-time faculty member, our content, even though they are actually employed by a Southern institution.
That's awesome, because you know what? It's our state. And
Right.
we're one state,
We're all-
and we
it's all Nevada's-
educate our
I'll confess
kids.
that is a Nevada higher.
That's right.
And an NSHE institution that I'm speaking about.
That's
So
right.
We're all in the same boat.
Good for you. Thank you so much for sharing that, but also for having that great partnership. I mean, we are one state, and we have wonderful students all over the state. And I think when the North can always lead the South, it always gives me a little heartwarm. Just kidding.
And I can't wait to send that institution your bill, Ron. I'm teasing. No, but I think it's great when faculty share across the state. And that's your last observation, John, on especially the Northern Community College institution sharing resources. We did start discussions this summer, meaning Dr. Solis and Dr. Joyce Hellens, so GBC, WNC, and TMCC, and Nate attended our last meeting. We're in conversations about things that we can share in a way that creates efficiencies for the three colleges, which without sacrificing effectiveness. And so we're starting those in earnest. We've got a couple of good ideas that we're kind of exploring further, and we'll let you know. Stay tuned. So.
And Councilman Thurman, I want to thank you for your questions. I think they're very, very pointed and very timely. So thank you so much. And any other comments regarding community issues, needs, collective vision for TMC? I mean, I'm sorry.
I actually just have a question, Joe Nannini for the record, about Web College. Which platform are you using?
Canvas.
Canvas, okay.
Yeah.
That's one, that Nate McKinnon for the record. One thing we do well across our system is, while we don't all use the same instance of it, now all 7 teaching institutions, all their online programs are done through Canvas, which is great, because that means that a student who goes from a community college to a 4-year doesn't have to learn a new system as an online, platform.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julie. That's okay, Julie Muley. I'm the Dental Assisting Program Coordinator here at TMCC, as I mentioned earlier. And that means I engage with about 90 different dental offices over the course of a year because we have student interns in those offices. And going back to when the economy's great, people are employed, well, that doesn't mean there isn't a need. And as we've learned going through these offices, that we've had new dental assistants who were hired with no more requirement than a pulse come to us and say, we don't know what we're doing, and we're kind of nervous. And then we've had employers saying, they don't know what they're doing, and we're kind of nervous, but they really have this need. So the president has said, go out and collaborate. And with the support of Dr. Mergolo and Dean Ellsworth, Dental Assisting is putting up a basic training course that is addressing the needs of people who are employed. It will be online, and it will be 10 weeks in the evening of labs to address things that Nevada requires, such as infection control and radiation health and safety. So even though there are a lot of people employed, this being able to reach out and collaborate has resulted in folks saying, yep, we're employed, but we don't know what we're doing, and employers saying they don't know what they're doing, help us. And so there's still that need. By collaborating, we were able to discover that.
Think about that when you're going to the dentist.
Yeah.
Just make me nervous.
My hygienist is a TMCC alum and does a great job.
Every time I go into any medical area, I always say, where did you go to school? I always do a survey, and most of them are proud graduates of TMCC. Let's take a look from this from a little bit of a different angle. Right now we have community issues, needs, collective vision for TMC, things that have been put up on this slide from a former. But let's take a look at this, and is there something, should this be changed? Should we be looking at this a little bit differently? We talked about the community, our community, the state, the world is changing rapidly, and does this really capture what we should be looking at as an organization, as an advisory board? Is this where we're going to do our best work and be the best resource for our leadership in NNCHE? Let's take a look at this. I'm open for comments. I just think that this goes back to really what is our purpose and what are we supposed to be doing, and is this the right framework of identifying issues, needs, and vision for the college. And again, this may lend itself to the other two items that we discussed, but I think it's important that we take a look at what we have and maybe or not. I'd like to get your comments on that from a moving forward perspective. I think we have a great opportunity, and I want to take advantage of it. Michonne?
I'm bringing up an old issue, and I'm kind of curious, frankly, if it ever went anywhere, but I think in the past, by lumping community colleges with the rest of the system, you kind of follow the form of a four-year institution versus that workforce development. I think we're in a different, we should have a different model. And one thing that came up at the last meeting, and I'm curious if it went anywhere, and excuse me if I missed something in the news, but was the notion that a lot of these programs should be taking place during the summer and should be paid for during the, it's a 12-month calendar when you're in the workforce, and we tend to operate on the school calendar.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, because I remember at the last meeting, there was conversation about not getting reimbursed for courses that occurred during the summer, which to me is kind of goofy. Because if you're an employer, and there are employers here that need employees right now, you've got to change the model. And I'm sure there's more instances of that if you really started thinking about it. But that one, I'm really curious. Did anything ever come of that?
So I think what you're recalling correctly, Michonne, is that the Board of Regents voted to advocate as one of the top legislative priorities state reimbursement for summer credits earned. Currently, okay, so currently we do receive state reimbursement in the summer for nursing and for science courses that are directly connected to nursing, okay? And that's it. And thankfully we get that so that we can actually, do what we need to do to get students graduated in the field of nursing. So my perception was that that request was sort of, how do I put it, dead on arrival or dead early on, or it just didn't seem to get legs in the Nevada State Legislature. And I don't know if Vice Chancellor Nate wants to speak to that, or Elena Bubnova, who was the governmental liaison. Now, we still do offer programs in the summer, but we have to be very, very careful because we don't get state reimbursement for most of them. And what you don't want to do is jeopardize the state reimbursement that you get for offering it in the fall or in the spring. That's the delicate dance that we have to do, unfortunately. So, but any other comments on that?
Yeah, if I could, this is something I think, this is a perfect example of something as we think about the next legislative session, we could really use help from our IAC members on in talking about that issue to legislators. As the president stated, there's sort of a moral hazard here, right? Which is a college wants to meet the needs of its constituents, but if they offer courses in the summer and students would have taken those in the fall, they lose money. And the other thing that happens is because they're not subsidized courses, the threshold for how many students you need for a course to be viable is much higher. Because if it's not going to pencil out, our colleges aren't able to be in the business of offering courses at a loss. We'd go under. So I think it's a real challenge, and I think while it may not be as big a deal at a four-year institution, where students tend to take the summer to do internships and things like that, 75% of our students are part-time across the state for community colleges. 75%, and every one of our colleges is pretty close to that number. So I think our students would much prefer to continue if we could do a better offering in the summer, but it's hard for the four presidents and their teams to make that work without the state support. So something we should definitely pay attention to. I'm really glad you brought it up.
I'm going to add to that too, because if I recall, the request that went in did not make any distinction between university summer funding and community college summer funding. So the workforce connection was lost. And I was frankly disappointed by that. And I'll just state that for the public record. I think that, I hope that in the next session, we are very strategic when it comes to any new money request. And I think very direct linkages to the workforce are important because, for example, 2 sessions ago, we asked for and received a factor increase in manufacturing, logistics, transportation technologies, and I think construction technologies. I think those were the 4 areas. That went from, I think, a factor of 1 to 4, so significant. That really has helped us. I mean, that impact on our budget was so positive that those programs are actually, they're definitely breaking even though they're very high-cost programs. So maybe an approach is to make the request with the scalpel again, not a big, huge dollar amount. That, you know what I mean? I think that was maybe part of the deal. But we tried. I mean, I do think we all tried. So anyway.
I think there needs to be a strategy around that.
Yeah.
So you identify the 4 areas that, and I know we're in a new regime now, but
Right.
that were identified as areas of need for workforce. You start with that, maybe. But I
Right.
think we can't lose sight of that. And frankly, I don't know who came up with that how that came up in the conversation, but I'm sure there are a lot of other instances of that where it doesn't really sync with a community college. You know what I mean?
Right, yep. Yeah.
Yes, John.
If, John Madole for the record, if those needs were needs that employers identified, why wouldn't employers be approached to sponsor the difference in the costs? It just doesn't, I mean, I don't, what are we talking, how many, tens of thousands? Or if a person needed those, whatever you're teaching, for half a dozen people, why couldn't they be approached as a sponsor? I don't think they'd be offended if the fact that they sponsored the class actually enabled 15 or 20 people that had nothing to do with them. It just seems like there's an opportunity being missed here. I don't quite understand all the dollars and the reasons why you wouldn't do that, I guess.
So first of all, I'll say that we do get significant support from industry and other foundations connected to workforce themes, such as the Pennington Foundation. And their support usually comes in the form of tuition to students and their families. And it's big. I mean, thanks to Gretchen and her team, I think we hit almost about $800,000 last year in scholarship support. And that's from all different individuals, from corporate support, small business support, big foundation support, like the Pennington Foundation, who, they like workforce stuff. So that helps students get here, but it doesn't help us cover the 2/3 of the cost of actually offering the instruction and the equipment and all of that. So I guess I just want to state that we're always looking for industry sponsors. We have a number of industry sponsors, including Plumas Bank, by the way, but oftentimes that comes in the form of scholarship support. So I would say industry has been really good partners. And of course, we can ask industry to help sponsor programs, but usually these are very expensive programs, and they just might not have it. It's just not going to make it, won't pencil. But I think it's a good topic to discuss further, so.
I guess I don't, it's, without looking at specifics, I guess I can't understand. If we were talking about a few $1,000s, which could be.
Oh, no, it's more than that.
Well, but I'm just saying, if it's a skill that somebody needs, it seems like there's an opportunity to, I guess I'm missing something here. I'm more construction oriented, but I'd say in the skills that construction people need, and some of these are management and things like that, it seems to me like there's a way to come up with the dollars to do some of these things and make it happen. But hey, maybe it's going over my head. I don't know.
No, I think you're right, and I think we do make it happen. We really do make it happen. I think the point that we're talking about now is it doesn't happen as much in the summer, because in the summertime, we do not get state funding.
Right, and particularly construction. I guess we're completely out of that. But
yeah,
I think there's more of a willingness on the part of some companies. When you just come and say, give me $50,000, I don't, it's nice to say we brought 15 or 20 students in and they're going to take the class, but I think people want to actually see a little bit more what they're doing. And it just seems to me like there's kind of a niche there that maybe you're missing. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Sorry, might be completely off base. I don't know.
No, I think they're good thoughts, and thank you for sharing. I just have a comment, BJ North. One of the things, going back to Vice Chancellor's comments about needing really support in the next legislative session, maybe what we might look at this from a broader perspective is partnering with EDON, because they go out and they survey businesses and the chamber and ask, would it be positively impactful to your business if we were able to get this going funded? And would you support this initiative? And is there really a need? So, I mean, if we could get data to support the need that would come from the chamber, economic development, different types of businesses, that would help fund, and businesses like to fund their focus. So, I mean, I'm sure we could get specific businesses to fund specific programs, but from a broader perspective, when you're talking about funding across the board, the thing that works is data. And data shows people that are voting, and I think sometimes if you've got really good data that you can present to show a need, then I think it makes the presentation a little bit more powerful. And so maybe offline, that we maybe could have a discussion and maybe meet with our partners that would have a very, they already have a system set up for networking to do this type of work. And maybe we could throw that question on the table. Because we have, many of you in the room have positions or members of both organizations. And so we could therefore bring forward our concern and our interest as to what it is that really the community needs. And this organization is supposed to be about what does the community need. So that might be something that we could do. Fine.
Yeah.
What other comments do we have regarding what's up on the board and what you see as how are these the things we should be addressing? Are we addressing them appropriately? Does this represent who we are? Is there any other comments? And I know, you've not had time to think about this, but I do feel it's important that we do think about these things and identify. There's a lot up there, and, we can only focus on so much. And my hope is that we focus on things that are really impactful to move the college and the community forward. Go ahead.
I'm still thinking about what John said, and I think that part of what your comment inspires is, do we structure, for those of you who are interested, as one of the roles of IAC members, to work closely with our foundation and be the face of an industry request. And I don't think we've ever done that before, but John, that's what your comment inspires is maybe you and Gretchen could team up and the three of us could go and talk to a particular industry partner and say, hey, we really need your help sponsoring this program. Because I think that would be a really kind of fun thing to try. And we might be really pleased with the results. So anyway, and especially since each of you represents different areas, logistics, for example, construction, for example, that might be a really cool thing. Yes.
This may not be totally in line with that. I can't get my head off of this funding formula for the summer, but the web classes, do they get reimbursed at the same level as in classroom?
Yes.
Yes. So they're all weighted student credit hours, but again, if offered during the summer, they're not.
There's just something fundamentally wrong with that in my mind.
I know.
That just,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if it makes you feel better, most of the community college where I've worked, states typically do fund summer, but I've worked in one state that also did not fund summer. And I think it was Oregon, but I'm not sure, but so we're not the only ones out there who, Nevada's not alone, but we are in a small number of states who do not fund summer for community college credits.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go
So,
ahead.
again, John Thurman for the record. So what I'm listening to here makes me think of the comments that I get from employers that the educational system, whether it be K through 12 or post-secondary, isn't really aligned with and producing a product that we can use. But I think this would cement that feeling from the employer side. But it's like you're running educational systems for the benefit of educational systems, not for the benefit of the employers. Enough said on that, but that's just what I'm hearing and I feel. And I think that then supports the general attitude that you get from employers across the country.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Nate McKinnon for the record. It's still a system that was founded on the idea of going to school and then working in a farm. And not much has changed except that we don't work on the farms.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God.
I have a question. How does student financial aid work in the summer with regard to community colleges?
I think, now that's gone back and forth, but I think they currently are funding.
They are funding?
Yeah, but I wish Sharon Worm was here, but.
Sorry,
Is that-
the state does not fund.
Right. You're
So
talking
for
about
example,
federal.
Promise Scholarship is not
Okay,
available
but federal.
in the summer. But summer, you can get a Pell Grant
Okay.
from the federal government. So again, we're a little behind some of the national trends in that as well. But these require legislative changes. And I would point out this, one of the challenges here is this is not just a legislative fix. There will be a price tag associated with it. And that's where, that's the reason it hasn't happened. It's not a lack of desire, I would argue. It's a lack of, being able to recognize that that will cost additional money to fund that in the summer.
Thank you all for your comments. And again, I think,
Got one more
this.
comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Steve Reed for the record. So regarding the possibility or potential of the summer funding or programs, and on a grander scale as well, as I've been in my first meeting and thinking about what role I can play and how I can contribute. I know there's, for logistics anyway, there's a committee or a council at the logistics level that I feel like if I go participate with them and join their meetings, I can bring something like this to that meeting where there are other industry representatives to see if there's, any want for something like that, as well as understanding what they're talking about so I can bring that back here to represent what's important to them. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about regarding that.
So if we look at, what is our purpose, part of that is not coming to a meeting, sitting here, going home and saying, that was a great meeting, we had great discussion, but we're the advocates for TMCC and for changing the role of the college to continue to meet the needs of the community. And that's a perfect example. We all have a great outreach. And we need to leverage that outreach to determine what is needed, go to our industry sectors and tell them the challenges that we're having from a college. Because, I'm a business person and I didn't know half of this stuff, and I'm kind of pretty well connected with the college and the university. So it's important that we take this role as the advocates, as the educators, and as the askers, getting the information that we need to bring forward to our leadership, that they can bring forward if necessary to impact funding for our school, but also getting out the word to the community, to our people that we serve and our businesses that, hey, we're paying attention. We want to hear from you. These are things that we feel are concerns. Are we right or are we wrong? Maybe they might say, no, we don't have a need for schools in the summertime. Well, I don't know, but, from my perspective, I question that, and from what I've heard, but I don't know. So getting that advocacy out, getting out into the different industries that we're all involved in, and steering that conversation and bringing the college up, and just the needs of higher education, because K through 12 is always front of mind, and I think the college level especially needs to be also front of mind, as well as our wonderful university. So, any other comments or questions on this? Michonne, you look like you have a question.
No, I'm good.
I can think you might have one.
No.
I would like to, again, this will probably be included in our next agenda because it all ties together, but please give this some thought. I think it's important that as we move forward, we really have a very clear idea of what our expectations are, what our role is, and where we're going for the future, and it's very important today for the future of our wonderful TMCC and our students and our faculty. Yes, Mindy.
Mindy Lockshin for the record. I just had one other thought, and I know UNR is mentioned there, but I think the articulation between the community college and the university, both directions, is really important for us to recognize and work on.
Thank you for bringing that up. Any other comments or questions? If we're ready to move on, then we will move on to, let me get on my glasses. New business, future agenda items. You've got several on the agenda right now. Any agenda items from students or faculty or president?
I think, oh, next to Eastview.
Eastview.
Hopefully we'll,
Okay.
well, yeah, we'll be ready
All right.
to share with you.
Is there something you would like to see or learn about or have presented in the future?
Elena just reminded me that we're trying to get updated photos of all of you. So before you leave today, yes, where's the photo person at?
I will take everyone who's ready.
Okay, there, so you thought you were getting out really early, but we don't want to let you leave until you take a photo.
Can't we send you our 10-year-old cover
Right,
shots?
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, yeah.
Send you one.
We can arrange for some work to be done.
We can arrange, oh, she said we can Photoshop ourselves, yay.
Not on the record. If you can brush it, I'll take the
Right,
picture.
yeah, right, so.
Okay, any other items for the agenda?
Counselors involved.
Regent DeCarlo, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, new chair. I'm very happy you're our new chair.
Thank you.
You'll bring a lot to this with your love of TMCC and the love of our community and your great network of people in the community. I think today we had some great discussions, and truly moving forward as the chair, I do want to make these more relevant. I think the discussion's great to go over what our charge was in the history. But going forward, I have been very concerned about not having really any action items. And I think we're setting the ground today, and I will be attending all of the meetings around the state with Vice Chancellor McKinnon. I think one of the best things that came out of this is the need to put a comprehensive collaborative process together with industry through NNDA, through EDON, about going to the legislature next time, because I was really excited about funding of summer school, and we just didn't get any respect on that one. I mean, it was like completely dismissed from, we hardly even got it out of our mouths. So I think the point was made, probably by you, was Michonne, that we put a really good case together, and data drives everything we do. Data. And Vice Chancellor McKinnon's point is really good. We're not an agrarian society anymore. We're moving at the speed of lightning, and it's ludicrous to think that we have to be on a K through 12 schedule in 2019-20. So I really think we're going to make some progress there. I've been very concerned on the funding formula and how it treats community colleges. Sometimes one size does not fit all, and I know when they carved out in that last 2 sessions ago, that extra funding for the CT classes, that was a good start. In fact, we have a conversation today. It starts with the chancellor, and we'll go from there. And again, that's going to be a data-driven, and hopefully we're going to have some. We'll have a better idea, and Vice Chancellor will be on that call. So I'm excited about moving that conversation forward and at least getting our fair day in court, say. So I'm really happy to be the chair. There's so much we can do, and this is the conduit, truly. And what you observed, Steve, as a brand new member, right on. I mean, you are truly the advocates, as the new chair said, to go out into your sectors. John, you too, and you've still got all those ties into construction. You might think you're retired, but you're really not. For those of you that don't know it, he passed the helm after 40 years to his son. So he stays very involved in the construction industry. But totally, you are the conduits, and that's why it's so important to have a cross-section of our industries and to have, to really look at the industries. We do have new industries that we didn't have 5 years ago, and I've been to a blockchain presentation and I still don't get it. But I know I need to get it because that's the future.
It is.
And so, yes, those technologies need to come to this committee too. So I'm very excited, and this like this quote start of the school year, as you said, and this is a good first meeting in the cycle that I'll be attending. So I just appreciate everybody's time here today. I know we're all volunteers when we come to these, and thank you for representing your companies and the work you do. And I'm always available. I'm retired, happily retired, and yeah.
Don't believe that.
I love being retired, but this is what I can do. This is now my new passion, education and students. It's so wonderful that you're part of this, because that's why I'm here, to take our bottom levels in Nevada, and there's only one way to go up, and it's to go up. And I think as a member of the Board of Regents, we are doing the right things, and our new core requisite's going to be very helpful. And we, I don't know if a lot of the people know here that we did a tuition to where the students are going to know what their tuition's going to be for the next 4 years, so you can afford it. And thank you to like Gretchen and the scholarship committee. $800,000 plus is huge. School is expensive, but not going to school is a lot more expensive for your lifetime of earnings. So thanks everybody for being part of this today, and thank you for your leadership too, President Hilgerson.
Welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, Regent Del Carlo. We are very happy that you
Lisa
are
has two things.
involved and our representative and our regent, because I know that you have a passion for education and for community college. So thank you. It'll be a pleasure working with you. Lisa, did you have a question?
Thank you, Chair North. A couple housekeeping items. So the next meeting will also be talking about our meeting schedule and timing. So if you have suggestions, or if this time doesn't really work for you, please send those to me, and we can certainly have a discussion about setting a new schedule. Also, it's been a while since we've had an open meeting law refresher, so that will have to be in the next meeting as well. And it'll take anywhere from 30, 45 minutes to run.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next, is there any other new business? Okay, well, moving on to the next item on the agenda is takeaways. And I'm glad to see this, because whenever I have meetings or retreats, I always have takeaways, because I like to see if there are any. No, just kidding. So Mindy, we'd like to start with you. What are your takeaways today?
Well, as a brand-new member, my first meeting today, it was a perfectly appropriate topic. Is what is the IAC, and why are we here, and what action items can we take? So I'm very excited to be part of the process of defining that.
You're brand new, so give us a takeaway.
I would have to agree. I think that this was a great meeting to sit in on and hear about the structure and the history, and how we got here and how we fit under the Board of Regents and the committee.
Welcome, Caleb. We're really happy to have you. Thank you.
And I'm not a new member. Probably a stale member. But anyway,
No.
I think, I guess two things. One is that I think we always need to be kind of bringing up some of these things on a repeated basis until they get resolved, because the whole summer compensation has come up before, as well as the articulation, which I think was another great meeting conversation we had a few meetings ago about the efforts to better articulate with UNR and or other four-year universities, and some of the challenges there. So I think, not letting go of some of those things, because that's a key piece of the community college's mission. I think we kind of move on to the next when we should be going back from time to time on some of these topics. And the second thing is, in general, I think we need more action items on our agenda. It's great to have a thing for information, but we need to really be always conscious of what we're trying to accomplish and how we can help you. And so when you set up the agenda, I think you've really got to structure it with that in mind, like, where can we
BJ's
help
call.
you? Otherwise,
No, we work together.
we won't be useful. So that's my 2 cents.
And I think that's been the conversation, is that we need to have action items and determine what are the issues that we really want to focus on and take on, and that we can have a major impact on. And also following up on things that we have brought forward to this committee as to status, and President and her team can, bring that forward on an ongoing basis as status updates.
No, and I think just being conscious of how we can help serve you, Karan, because like, for example, with your event coming up next week, if you want a couple of us there, say, would you be there?
Okay.
Because I do think it's important
Would you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I think it's important, that you need to set the expectations of us too.
Okay.
And I think everybody here would be happy to oblige. Sometimes you just need to be more direct in terms of what you want.
Good.
So, enough of that.
Okay, good, thank you.
Steve Reed, I feel lucky to be at this meeting because I feel like I'm getting in on the ground floor in some respect with regard to the purpose, et cetera. And I am certainly not a person to have a meeting for meeting's sake, so I really appreciate the idea of having actions and something meaningful come out of this committee. So thank you.
Thank you.
I get enough microphone time, but I'm just very pleased with today's meeting. Great progress, and excited to have you as new chair.
Thank you.
I think you heard from me.
I learned that the students are excited about relevant bachelor degree programs, which is pretty exciting. And just that we all need to interact with the community in a more meaningful way, and that everyone wants a purpose, and we do well with a purpose, and spreading our message to the community is one thing we can dedicate as a purpose.
My name's John Albrecht, and I want to invite you to an opportunity. My Rotary Club, TMCC, and the Washoe County School District, my Rotary Club pays for specially designed notebooks with the TMCC wizard lizard on it. It says, "Let's go to college," and we give them to every child in selected elementary schools that serve low-income neighborhoods. And it's a 50-page spiral notebook that the child can use throughout the academic year. The older students use it, their teacher, like the 6th grade and the 5th grade's teachers, use it as the journal for the kids. And they journal in these notebooks year-round. But the cover has the wizard on it saying, "Let's go to college." And it's a reminder, we hope, to all of these children that college should be their ultimate goal. So we hope we're kind of planting a seed for that idea. We're doing this at Virginia Palmer Elementary School, August 30th, which is the Friday before Labor Day at 1:30. The really fun part of it, okay, they get a notebook, that's nice. The TMCC students lead an assembly at each one of the, all day. I mean, it's all afternoon. The assembly lasts about 20 minutes. We have great kids from TMCC that it's like a pep rally. It's like, you got to think, are you thinking about college? What do you want to do for a living? Do you think you can afford it? How much money is given away? It's fun, it's peppy. It's Virginia Palmer Elementary School, 1:30, the Friday before Labor Day, and I just want to invite you all to that if you can possibly be there, or ask me about it after the meeting.
Is it at 1:30?
1:30, it's Friday, August 30th, Virginia Palmer Elementary, which is over that way.
Sun Valley.
And you have more schools that you're hitting if that date doesn't work, right?
Well, we have enough notebooks for one more school, and my Rotary Club is
okay.
kind of out of money for this. This is our 4th year of doing this.
Okay.
Last year, we did it at 4 elementary schools, or the year before, we kind of skipped a year. So it's exciting, it's fun, it's peppy, it's
Right.
easy.
It's cute.
I
can't go on that date. But. Okay, so I had a few takeaways. I do think I would like to take up John on the idea anyway, and I think the foundation office and I need to think strategically about how IAC members can help us raise money for specific programs. So that was one important takeaway. The other important takeaway, and thank you, Michonne, for really stating out front and giving me kind of permission to say, hey, I need you to help with this, or I need you to be at this event on this day, or whatever it is. So thank you. I do appreciate that. I think the other takeaway that really impressed me too, Regent DiCarlo, was to just have a more data-driven, community-driven strategy around any funding requests for community colleges, but in particular, a funding request for support in the summertime for workforce courses or other courses as well. So I thought that was really good. And what that means, it means that we would need to start working with NSHE now, because NSHE has a whole layer of kind of government lobbyists that we have to work with and work through. But so I'm so glad you're here, Regent DiCarlo, because I think it's never too early to start planning, and I think that's an excellent strategy that I do not think we used last year. And so, thank you. Anyway.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of takeaways from today. Having formerly sat on this committee, the action part was the kind of part that I was like, not really sure why we do this. So I was really excited to hear you guys talk about that. And here's what I really heard. Community college is the workforce engine of the community, and the IAC's purpose is to connect the college to the community. Thank you for stating that so succinctly. I heard that. And then I also heard this. The IAC voice should be succinct, factual, and timely to go out into the community and advocate, educate, and ask for what's needed. So that's my distillation of what I heard today. So thank you for that. That helps me frame the purpose.
All right, Joe Nannini for the record. So what I took away kind of feeds my interest in student persistence. And I think that looking at it would be awesome to look at the data from the Nevada Promise sort of cohorts that have gone through to this point, and look at not just the numbers, sort of as we talked about today, of the gross numbers, but how those touch points with those students affect persistence through degree completion. And I think that that might be a really useful metric, because as we talked about, it's a I can't remember the term, last dollar program.
Right.
It may not be a good sort of metric to just look at who's receiving the scholarship, but who has received those sort of touch points from us and from other mentors. There are mountains of research that suggests that it's those human connections that keep students in college. Absolutely. And I think that it's going to be really cool to watch that program develop.
It's a good suggestion.
John Thurman for the record. I think the biggest takeaway is that there's a common theme here today, as I'm hearing in other board meetings that I'm at, and there's the desire to understand exactly why they're meeting and why they're there, and I'm seeing that in many different situations. But I think it might be fueled by the fact that we're in a prolonged period of economic growth and stability, and you're not faced with some really hard, difficult task ahead of you, like very high unemployment or whatever the case may be, that really focuses your attention. And right now it's kind of like, where are we going? What can we have impact on? So that's really kind of my takeaway.
Thank you.
John Badol, I think I mentioned some of my concerns before. I do think maybe there's an opportunity being missed here by you. And I would just point out, because I guess I'm construction oriented, summer is winter to construction. Mm-hmm. So, you may have people that want to run something right up to the day before Christmas and then come back on the 26th and do, so there might be some opportunities in the winter for what you actually refer to as summer classes, but they would be winter classes around the weather and the downtime on construction. The other, I would just kind of carry on what Michonne said. When you need something, I think you have to be kind of specific. I mean, I see these emails come through and it says, hey, here's a dinner or something. Mm-hmm. I just sort of think, hey, I would rather somebody just say, hey, I need help at this dinner, get here at 7, and it's gonna
This
end at 9,
instruction.
and then
Tell
we
us
can
what to
take it
do.
from there. Don't be embarrassed about asking. I'll tell you, if you've ever asked for money for politicians, people practically hang the phone up on you, so everything else is easy. This is easy.
And plus, I think, we like to be told what you want us to do,
Right.
when, where, give us an instruction, we say yes or no, and we move on. I mean, it's pretty, we understand that from, I think, from a business perspective. So thank you for that. Ron?
Well, I'm just filling in today, of course, for the Senate Chair. And I have to say that this is a very busy time for me as a department chair. We're still hammering down this final schedule for classes that start in a couple of weeks, and I'm still finding instructors, and so I'm very busy. So I was pretty reluctant to fill in this morning. However, I'm glad that I did. I actually sat on this committee the very first time that it met, and I think there are a couple of you here that also did, because I was as the Senate Chair back then in 2015. And so I was really happy to see a big part of the discussion today be about the actual effectiveness of this body and what it can actually get done, because I've sat on and chaired many committees in my 21 years here and had the same, as a lot of you shared, had the same sort of concerns about what you can actually get done in these committees. So I was really happy to see that, hear that discussion, and I got a lot of good notes that I'll share with the Faculty Senate Chair, so thank you.
Ron, thank you for your time. We know you're busy, but we're really happy that you joined us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yeah, just a fly on the wall. I mean, I love the collaboration between the community and TMCC, so it's really great.
You are not a fly on the wall. You have a very important job in Roland R, and you're part of the reason for the success of this college. So thank you so much.
Good.
Gloria?
Yeah, just for the record, Val Saborio for the record. I think my takeaway is, as a student, maybe we don't know what's behind all of the things that happen at TMCC and how things are accomplished. And to see professionals and people that are passionate about this, as you, as a student, is really important to recognize that and to pass it along. So for me, it was just interesting to see how everything works kind of in the back. And sometimes we don't know that, but I feel very blessed and fortunate and honored to be here as a student with people like you. So thank you.
You're our voice to the students. You share the message, so thank you so much, and congratulations on your success in school, and
Thank
I'm
you.
sure that we will watch you throughout your journey of life for great success, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm sorry,
I'm
we have
so
someone
sorry I
I'm
was
not
late
aware of.
today. Marisa Brown, for the record. I'm with the Nevada Hospital Association.
Oh, hi, thank you.
Hi, yes, thank you. So in listening to everybody today, I have a couple questions, actually. I'm reflecting back on what John said with regards to the rural areas and education in those areas, and how do we help them meet their need when they have such limited resources. And I had the opportunity last week to drive to Winnemucca and stopped off at Enshi there. And there happened to be a nursing faculty person there, and she took me back to their simulation lab, and she was talking about the connection between, and we have such great technology now with the Zoom platform and those kinds of things. They can actually connect to content experts in Las Vegas, maybe an attorney that talks to the nursing students about ethics. And I don't know if other areas in a workforce, as far as needs in a rural community, would take the opportunity to use that kind of platform to teach that way. I mean, I thought that was really amazing. So that might be an opportunity to look at, for us to look at. And the other thing I have is a question, really more to, if I know that in the healthcare industry, I constantly hear that we have workforce shortages, or I see things that maybe TMCC might be able to contribute to education. And I don't know how we would propose those things. Is this the appropriate venue to do that? Or do we come specifically to you? I know I've talked to Jody Covert, who's the dean of the nursing school here, about, I had spoken to her a while back about
the surgical tech program, because we didn't have one up here. And I see now we do. And so I don't know how we bring forth those types of things.
So I'll tell you what's, I think, the effective way to do it, and that is to just mention it to me or Vice President Marie if it's an instructional program, and we'll have a preliminary conversation, and then I think we should bring it here. So does that help?
Yes.
I mean, sometimes, and the only reason the preliminary conversation is nice is it might be something we already tried, and if it only had 3 students in it, we can't do it. The Surge Tech is a wonderful example, though, because we actually partner with CSN to make that work. So it's a really cool program. Yeah, so, but does that help?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're here. Give us some feedback.
Oh, there's still time.
We haven't massaged all this yet or given assignments.
Right, yeah.
No, I think I definitely. We, as community colleges collectively, are at a point where we do need the backing of the community and the stronger voice of businesses to push forward some items legislatively, in particular those related to workforce training. And that is where I'm absolutely delighted to hear that you guys are so action-oriented, and we would certainly appreciate any support, advice, guidance, wisdom, connections that we can lend, and everything that we are appreciative for, as you being on the board as experts from your respective fields. So thank you.
I think I'm just incredibly impressed. I mean, on a daily basis, I see faculty, staff, and students' enthusiasm and passion for this institution that I've grown to love. But to sit around and see people from the business community share that. I spent 18 years in the business world before I became an academic, and I know how challenging it is to add one more thing to your calendar. And to see that you embrace what we do and want to do even more and become more actively involved. The questions you ask are so relevant, and they really help us keep on track and thinking what the future needs are for our students, the skill sets to obtain. So I'm just incredibly impressed. That was my takeaway, with the passion, enthusiasm, and willingness that the business community has to embrace TMCC and help us move to the next level and help our students be very successful, productive members in this community.
Thank you for all of our TMCC team, all their work. And we talked about a fabulous accomplishment, 800 scholarship money raised, and I see that back of over there by the wall, that I just want to say, Gretchen, would you please stand up? And I would like everyone to see the face behind the movement and give her a big round of applause.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for all your work, because it definitely has an impact directly to our students and the success.
Well, thank you, BJ, and I want to say it takes a village. I mean, it's the foundation staff, it's the community, it's the whole TMCC family. It's all of you who help us to make those connections with people, to advocate for the college that makes our jobs much easier. So really appreciate that.
Keep up the great work. We're here to help you, and so remember what we said earlier, ask. Tell us what you need and ask. That's right. That's the old fundraiser motto. Thank you, and thank you to your team. I just would like to say, before we go to public comment, that I'm just honored to be your chair, and I want to thank you so much for your support the love I have for this college is unsurmountable. I used to work here, so it makes me a little teary. I love this school. I'm excited about the future and being able to make an impact. And I really believe we have the leadership through. And, you know, we can make a difference, and each person can make a difference. And if we set our mind to it, we can do great things. And this is our voice, and I really hope that we will use it wisely, loudly, and impactfully, and take action. And I'm not sure who, it was one of the Johnson, forgive me, but, you know, the best time to plan for hard times is during the good times. And, you know, we've been on a real lucky streak with our economy, but, you know, I'm an old banker, and bankers know that what goes up comes down. We just want to make sure it doesn't come down real hard. And, you know, the philosophy I've always had in business is always be prepared and make sure that your business is strategically positioned to succeed in all economic times. And so, you know, the college is a critical aspect, and we need to help this college in INSHE be prepared for the future, whatever that future looks like, and to plan for good times, and also always remember that the worst case scenario could always be there as well. So I think we could give some good input to that. Again, thank you so much for attending, and before we adjourn, I would like to go to the public comment section of our agenda. Is there anyone that would like to have, from the public that would like to make a comment? There being none, again, thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. Remember, go TMCC, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, wait. And don't forget the photos, and I am so thrilled that BJ North is our new fearless leader. Yay!